My journey to Islam began when I was just 6 years old. It may seem strange, but it is a fact. I was born into a family. I received my communion and confirmation at the age of 6 age. Despite this, he was very different from the Catholic common. I prayed only to God. I refused to worship Jesus, may God praise him, or any other saint. Sure, my parents thought it was a little weird, but no, they talked to me about it. A month before my confirmation, the priest made me. I asked a question, and after I answered it, he asked me to pray to Jesus. I remember looking at him and saying that I didn't pray to Jesus, prayed to God. He went on to tell me that Jesus was God, but I argued and firmly said that it wasn't. The priest was enraged and almost hit. Later that night, my parents received a phone call saying that I was rebellious, a troubled child, and that I had to find my own path. Despite this, the church made my confirmation, but I was excommunicated by the local bishop and never went to church again. All my life I have believed only in a God. I started praying to him at the age of 3. Life went on, and it was when I turned 15 that something interesting happened. We were taking a course in high school called Religions of the World, and, from the miserable section in the book that talked about Islam, he knew that from that moment I wanted to be a Muslim. In my moment of joy, I told my history teacher about my wish, but unfortunately he told me discouraged me, and a week later he showed me a very explicit film about the life of a Muslim. After I watched it, I changed my mind. I then moved on to my next choice, Judaism. I spoke to the same teacher, and so did he. Was against it, but accepted the fact that it would happen sooner or later afternoon. After that, I began to study Jewish books and become familiar with Jewish history in secret. I knew that if my family found out, I would never accept. The years passed, my interest increased, and I became even more serious in my quest for knowledge. Then, at 19 years, I took my first course in Reform Judaism and became convinced that that was the path he should follow in life. Was during the last year of university I met a rabbi in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. After a meeting he said he would convert me. That the time was not yet entirely certain, since I was still studying. I continued my religious studies under his guidance for 3 more years, and in 1988 I was converted, or, at least, I thought I had converted to the Judaism. After the ceremony I was not satisfied. Something was wrong about that conversion. I went home that night and read a book on Jewish law, and I discovered that I was not a Jew. The conversion had been a farce. He said to the rabbi what I read, and he was shocked. 2 years later I found a Hasidic group in New Jersey that was furious at my first conversion, and then another in the year of study with them. I was then converted a second time, but this time in the correct method. With that began my life as a Jewess. Started? I was basically left to my own devices. I was not treated well by these people and went in and out of religion. I was restless and felt that something was wrong. I soon became very depressed about people, the religion, and I was in a state of complete confusion. In 1999 I left Pennsylvania and moved to Budapest, Hungary. Here I tried again myself fit into the Jewish community, but I got involved in even bigger problems. Ringworm. I wanted to make a serious decision, and quickly, because I felt I was losing God in my life. I finally rejected the Jewish religion in 2010. I can tell honestly that in the 24 years I spent in Judaism I never felt the joy that I feel it now. There was no joy even at the end of my ceremonies of conversion, since deep down he knew that something was missing. During the time I was Jewish I used to read the Holy Quran and compare it with the Torah, and I found that the Quran made much more sense to me. In 2010, when I rejected the Jewish religion, I knew what the next step would be. but after what I had been through, I wasn't sure if I wanted to get involved with another religion. I was losing hope in God. I began to doubt Him and His existence and became depressed and confused again. My life went on like this for a while. I talked to many people who told me that I would find my way. I began to think seriously again about the Islam. I went out and bought my first Quran and then bought another one with a better translation. Here I was again at another crossroads in my life. What to do? One day I was walking down the street in Budapest and it happened so suddenly that I was stunned. I felt something stir my soul and I literally stopped on the sidewalk and looked up at God. I thought I was going crazy, but I wasn't. I truly believe that at that moment I received a message from Allah. I stopped there just looking at the sky, and when it passed I started walking again with a smile on His face. I knew He had reached me. That's when I knew that I couldn't let go of God because He touched my soul, and I knew it was time to convert to Islam. The weeks passed and I asked some friends for help on the internet, who told me how easy it was to convert and what was expected of me. I couldn't believe it. After spending so many years of study to get to become Jewish, how could it be so easy? I continued my research and found that what I was told about converting to Islam was true. On the night of January 27, 2011, I was feeling depressed and hopeless again. Felt that would never happen to me. In that state of mind, I went online and I found IslamReligion.com. And there it was in front of me and I couldn't believe it. I remembered to tell myself that if I wanted this, I had to do it now and get out of this situation of being lost and doubting God. And when I saw it, I was online with a counselor and it was happening. I was very moved when the chat had started, and I must confess that I was shaking. The chat continued, the man she called me, and before I knew it, I was a Muslim. The first thing that happened was that I started to, but they were tears of joy, a kind of joy I never had felt before. After it was all over, I felt many emotions. It was unbelievable and the happiness was overwhelming. I heard about that moment on that finally, after so many years of searching, had I found my right way to God. In the days following, the happiness continued. When I returned to work the following Monday, my colleagues kept asking me why I was so happy. What was there happened? And I was just able to say, yes, had I found my way to God.